We want you.
When starting up a new social enterprise, there are lots of decisions that need to be made. How will you make money while also creating impact? How will the organization be structured? A for-profit, a non-profit, maybe a cooperative? How will you set your prices, especially if the people you're serving are notoriously affected by price? And finally, how do you build a community? These are some of the things that Geoff and I discussed a couple months back just before the launch of Pitikwé Skatepark. I'll let him take it from here.
Yeah, so I'm Geoff Reimer. I'm one of the directors at the Matthew Skateboard Coalition, and we're sitting in the brand new Pitikwé Skatepark that we have birthed over the last 9 months of planning and organizing.
And Pitikwé is?
Pitikwé is the name. It's a Cree word that means to come in or a welcoming.
Right. And then the skate park is going to be, what's the defining characteristics of it?
To be welcoming.
Well, then the name's appropriate.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned other times that it's going to be inclusive, it's all ages. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, every, color, creed, sexual orientation, gender, you can work here, run it, volunteer, as well as everything that you're riding, whether it's just be a skateboard, BMX, scooter, roller skates, or blades. Any age, any ability, it's really going to be an open.
Whether you're an expert or here to learn.
Exactly. We'll have some elbow pads.
What happened that led to this starting?
Well, we wanted a downtown space. We needed flat, we needed concrete, and I just was drawn to this space. I actually pulled my car over or my bike over coming home from work a few times, just peered in the windows, but it had that slippery tile covering it all, so I kind of passed it over as an option. But then the Rolling Stones exhibit came and they ripped all the tile up and buffed all the floor to a perfect skateboarding skate park condition. So this became an option that we pursued, and yeah, we talked to the owners and we teamed up with Spence Neighborhood Association to be our fiscal partner, and bada bing, bada boom, we actually got a job, a deal done.
Who are the players in the Skateboard Coalition? Because it's not just you, right?
Oh, no.
It's a whole team that's been working together to make this happen. Can you tell me more about that?
About 13, 14 months ago, so in the first quarter of 2022, I had stopped working at the indoor skate park, but I still wanted to keep doing stuff with skateboarding and build a community. And I knew that there's a lot of really great things going on. Like there was, free skate lesson, a queer indigenous skateboard meetup. There was core shops, and there's people doing little magazines, just basically different people who are doing videos and just different things to build the community.
Yeah, all the distributed culture of the skate community here.
Exactly. And so I basically just texted everybody and we sat down in a circle. I wanted to plan Go Skate Day for that year, and I wanted to start looking for a new indoor space and encourage them and just say, like, where can I fit in? Because I no longer had a official position, but I know I had some time and some skills to give. So we ended up just kind of saying, like, let's work together. Let's spark up the Manitoba Skateboard Coalition.
I know when you were talking to me before, the first time you were describing this space and what it could be, you had tons of energy. Like, there's spark, there's excitement. It feels like a little bit of that has toned down.
Well, it's still surreal. Like I may be subdued because it's happened. I know what work I have in front of me.
There's so much work to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this space.
Yeah.
I'll include a panning shot later because there's so much to do.
There's a lot to do. There's a lot to, like, the materials of the park features. We want to make it very community led. Using volunteers in the community is going to be more work than just, hiring a professional team, if we even had the money to do that.
Yep.
We also have a lot of, or very experienced skate park builders in the coalition and in our community that are willing to lend a hand. So it's going to be really good, but it's going to take time and to coordinate all the people that want to be involved. And I think it's worth it, though, because we do exactly want to have that community feel, that community input and buy-in. So a lot of work with the materials, the builds, a lot of work with volunteer staffing and having supervisors, like whether they're volunteer or staff, like it's going to be dozens and dozens of people. So, and then all the dreams of, like the music, and, we want to have all-inclusive shows, all ages, all-inclusive, all ages shows. A lot of art will be going up soon, and we're partnering with a bunch of great organizations with that. So yeah, there's a lot happening, a lot about to happen, and it's super exciting.
Last time we spoke, we were discussing what could it look like in terms of an organization. What is it like to build an organization to make this possible? And you had a bunch of questions around, like, the structure of a nonprofit, or what else could it look like?
I'll even just tell you, we have, I think, 9 directors, so that would be our board. And when we incorporated, we had a president voted, and a vice, and a secretary, and a treasurer.
This is the Skateboard Coalition.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's as far as we are, and then we have another tier of active members of the coalition. So if people just want to be a part and put their name in the hat, and I think they can vote on things. I don't know what they can all do, but we're just trying to grow our team from the directors and as well as the members. And I think once we get going here, that'll change a bit and expand. But yeah, my main questions were, when I think of starting, I guess, a nonprofit is what's the structure like? I know there's often an ED, you need an admin person. What would be, when you're getting your first bit of grants and funding, what are like the main positions even?
See, I think you've even jumped the gun because you've assumed that it's going to be a nonprofit structure.
True.
Right? And this skate park, well, it is a part of the Skateboard Coalition. The Skateboard Coalition has enabled it to happen. The skate park is its own thing, right? It's got its own name.
It does have its own name. These are like, as we sit here, we're in the the flux of a lot of questions. So, which we're going to have to sit down as the directorship and decide whether we want to keep it as a close appendage of the coalition, and it still is essentially the coalition, it's just one little branch, or whether we kind of break off a bit more and it's still, quote unquote, under the coalition, however we frame that, but have a bit more arm's length, or if we completely sever, it's been birthed out of the coalition, but now for all intents and purposes we're completely different, and then there's all the options in that.
So you've touched on the three basic ways in which we can structure another organization or a program within a nonprofit. There's the first, which is a program within a nonprofit, which we described, where the Skateboard Coalition is the leading entity. There's making the skate park a for-profit that is then owned by the nonprofit Skateboard Coalition.
Okay.
And then there's the severing of ties, where it's more arm's length. They're both partners to each other, but they don't necessarily have ownership or influence in the same way as if it were inside the same organization.
Right.
When we're talking about that, there are pros and cons of each. You were just describing, like, looking at nonprofit status, which means it's probably a separate organization. Nonprofits can't necessarily own another nonprofit because there is no ownership. There's the board that provides direction. So if the skate park becomes its own nonprofit, then it would in some way be a partner at arm's length from the Skateboard Coalition. But we'd also discussed having more direct control. That would more likely look like a for-profit structure with ownership shares controlled, at least initially, by the Skateboard Coalition. And in that way, you'd have a little more flexibility, because then if, let's say, you wanted to assign a certain percentage of ownership to different stakeholder groups, like some queer groups, some newcomer groups, some that are more into the arts and the music scenes, you could then assign ownership to each of these subgroups so that they have their percentage of influence in what happens here. They have a vote, literally, because of the ownership shares, depending on how they're structured. And then there's that third option of a program of the Skateboard Coalition, in which case the coalition itself still has complete control, because the board there, or the directors, can then present and show. They can make those decisions, but you still get the benefit of the nonprofit ownership and the partners of the Skateboard Coalition. So those are some of the considerations there.
Yeah.
What are the big questions that have been floating around?
Well, I'll just throw another couple of things, and I don't know how familiar you are with, like, just when you mentioned like the shares and the ownership, like that sounds similar to, and maybe it fits very similar into like a co-op, like a worker co-op or a user co-op, which I've also kind of considered.
Actually, I'm gonna take that for a second, because you do have the fourth option of incorporating as a cooperative, because it is a separate designation, and that has other specific restrictions in how you structure the organization.
Okay.
Often it's one member, one vote. You would have to then have the members elect the board of directors. You'd have to determine who can become a member and how and why, because there's a difference between member cooperatives. Like if we think of the co-op gas station and grocery store, anyone can just become a member as a consumer. Then you've got producer co-ops, which doesn't really apply in this situation, because I don't think the skate shops themselves want to be the only owners of this park. That's more common in agricultural settings, because then all the producers can come together and sell together. And then you've got mixed model cooperatives, where then, like in a for-profit structure, you can define varying levels of membership, like partner members, consumer members. It can change, be more flexible in that way.
And worker member would be another option.
Yes, and a worker cooperative is another option, because then the people who are here, who are working to make the skate park happen, they receive the benefits of any profits or revenue that is coming in, and it benefits them to do better in this work.
And the funny thing, interesting to know for the viewers, these things don't make any money. skate shops, they just don't make any money. So, so that'd be a real hoodwink if any member wanted to profit share. I'm more intrigued and interested in the co-op, worker co-op model, even just for buy-in and for flat governance structures and power structures and leadership structures. So I don't predict a lot of profit sharing, but I do predict a lot of ownership and what that can bring as far as this being very community owned. That's an ideal that I hold.
Let's get into that community ownership, because we've been talking about how even the building of the ramps to build up the space, that is a thing that the community is going to be involved in. We were going through a tour of the space earlier, and you were describing how there's probably going to be 30 or 40 people in here working at the same time to get these ramps built.
Maybe not at the same time.
Okay.
That's going to be my job, to split them up so that does not happen.
That would be chaos.
Yes.
Not enough tools for everyone.
Exactly. But there are we already have 40 people, and I think that number is probably gonna up when the interest comes of people are on their Instagram showing, it's a good time building skateboard ramps. So I think we're gonna have even more. There will be people already putting sweat equity to own the park, right? We won't necessarily put that on paper as a shareholder right away or in some of the other options, but maybe part of the cooperative, you're mentioning before, what is it to be a member? What are the whatever? Coming and putting 5 hours of building the park equals a share, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't even know how that all works. But.
And I mean, regardless of the structure of the organization, other than cooperatives, because then members have a very specific meaning. Okay. But like a nonprofit or a for-profit, like Costco has memberships. They're not a co-op. They can still say membership gives you these benefits. These are the conditions of becoming a member. And for Costco, you have to pay the membership fees, and then you get access to their shop. Here, you could say become a member by volunteering for 10 hours, and then you get access to 2 music shows every 3 months.
I've had this thought.
There are ways that we can say, you are a dedicated member of this community. We have recognized that, and we can reward that.
I've even thought of different packages as well. Full-on member would be you get a skate pass, you can skate for free and whenever you want.
Right.
Comes with a helmet, like you said, 2 of the shows, or maybe 40% off.
However the numbers work out. Yeah,
exactly.
Discounts are good.
But then go a couple of tiers lower if you don't want the full, platinum package. You can do other ones. So.
Well, and then you can also choose to mix in either people could pay for the membership or they could volunteer to earn membership.
Right.
There could be different ways that expresses itself.
100%.
And then you get into a difficult conversation of community management, because if all of a sudden you get a factions dividing based on who paid and who volunteered, that's no good. But you got to keep the community together.
Yes.
We'd also discussed previously the idea of social enterprise work in here, like revenue generating, trying to earn an income. You mentioned earlier that skate shops don't earn money.
Skate shops or skate parks.
We're looking to potentially look at how can you supplement revenue from grants or entrance fees or venue fees or admission costs, how we can supplement that. What are some of the ideas you've had there, and what would those look like?
Yeah, so from my experience running a skate park for more than a decade, there's camps. When there's a fee, 9 to 5 week-long summer camp that brought in revenue. Granted, those were worked by Green Team grant staff, so that's how that the margins became better when we got granted.
So because it was a nonprofit setting, you could apply for grants, get the workers for the revenue generating activities.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's that one, and then rental fees. That rentals is another thing that's always brought in money. The concessions in the shop, it's all minimal. Clothing sales, it's all pretty minimal. But those 2 were kind of the bigger ones. Rentals, and then once we figured when the city stopped doing skate, those we found were actually something that people like to pay for. And the music now, I just chatted with someone who does music, it's not going to make a lot of money, is what the final answer is. So the value brought will be just the community and more eyes and more activity. So it'll just be another rental fee, which it's some money, but it's not going to be hanging your hat on for getting by and paying salaries by any means.
Yeah, from what I know of performance venues, the money is typically earned in alcohol sales,
which we probably won't really do much of.
No, because it's all ages shows. Yeah. It's hard to serve liquor when there's toddlers running around.
Yeah, so I was talking to Mike from Red River College, and we were just talking about Indigenous leadership structures, and it just got me thinking about what sort of board and leadership we could have above kind of our management employees of this space, directors and whatnot, and then the volunteers. And so that's just something that I'd love to explore.
Bring in basically an advisory group, other stakeholders, to make sure that people who have historically been underrepresented are present in the room making decisions.
Yeah, like I want those ways of knowing and being in this space of responsibility-based, people-based.
So then who are some of the other people that have been involved in this whole process? Because I know this is not a one-person show. This doesn't just happen when one person decides it. Who are the other people and what work have they been putting in?
One, Charla Smeal, it's kind of like my right-hand person. We've been communicating with Staples Staples Portage Place for this whole acquisition, for this whole lease. And she's been taking a lead on a lot of those sorts of things. She's business owner, runner. She's got a lot of skills that have been instrumental in getting us here. She sits on the board in the downtown biz, those sorts of things. Just the different people who just have the skills sets in communications and social media or the website and, civic governance and relationships. And then we have different people that are going to jump in with the build or other business owners that have been, helping with other numbers and other things like that. And we have an events coordinator. We had like 6 events over the winter. And then that's just the directorship and the directors. And then there's just been, volunteers that have just like approached us and like, hey, I got an idea for this event. Let's do it. It's like, yeah, do it. And it was an amazing like skate event with like thrift store and like patching clothes, and it was just very beautiful. It was like a really, really cool event. Falcon Lake, they did an event at the snowboard hill with us. Ida, like the co-op there, they did a pizza sale for us. There's been a tattoo artist or 2 that have been doing some stuff. Like just
wow, so it's a real mix of subcultures, just everyone coming together.
It's very, very cool. And I like just looking around, I'm like, who's next? Like once we have the space too, like when people can actually come see and be in this space, I just know that there's gonna be even more partnerships and more collaborations that are gonna happen. We got letters of support from Graffiti Art Gallery, Art City, Art Beat, and then like urban planning professors and just different people that all see such a value in this and want to, I mentioned, I hope before, Spence Neighborhood Association, they're our fiscal partner, and they do a whole bunch of programs and they have after school stuff. So like there's just gonna be like West Broadway community organizations like across the street. Like I want this space to just be this hub of like life and collaboration, and it's already doing that, and I really think it's gonna even increase once we're functioning. So
right, you just kind of glossed over a term, fiscal partner.
Yeah.
And with Spence Neighborhood Association, can you go into a little more detail about what that means and what it let you do?
Yes. No, it was, so we would not be sitting here without the fiscal partner, and what that means, fiscal, like money partner. So they have a charitable status.
Yeah.
We do not have a charitable status.
Right.
Charitable number. I think we're gonna look to do that. It takes like 12 to 18, 24 months.
It's a huge process.
It's a big process, a lot of time. We were able to approach them, and they were willing to basically adopt us, so to speak. Just take us under their wing.
Just a little skate park.
Yes. We can apply for grants through a charity. We can get donations from individuals, corporations, and they'll get tax receipts through Spence Neighborhood Association.
Right, so they're donating to Spence Neighborhood, but like they've memo marked the Skateboard Coalition.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I just actually sent a text. Someone was like, we got a donation coming. What should we write it to? Spence Neighborhood Association - Manitoba Skateboarding. No, yes, Manitoba Skateboarding Association.
Coalition.
Yes, coalition.
Yeah.
Association Spence Skateboarding. Yeah.
Yep.
That's how close we are.
You're taking each other's names?
Yeah. Exactly.
I didn't realize it was a marriage.
Yeah. Yeah, for the time being, and it's super amazing.
You've mixed your accounts.
Yeah. We wouldn't be here without it. So simple as that.
So then what are the next steps? What's the work that needs to get done, and what are still the big question marks of things that need to get figured out?
The skate park, I could go tell you for half an hour. I have the people and the hiring and the volunteer. Give you half an hour on that, and then like the administrative or the structure of the organization. Both, there's a whole bunch of things.
Let's talk staffing for a bit,
Sure.
Because I feel like we haven't really touched on that yet. And from the video angles that we got here, people are not going to get a sense of quite how big it is because there's 2/3 of it behind the cameras.
Yeah.
We are showing the tiniest part of the skate park with what's going to be the welcoming area back there.
Yeah.
So there's going to need to be tons of people in here to make this work.
And to make it work on a night by night or evening or day by day with skateboarders time, but then obviously there's behind the scenes work, the admin, who's program coordinating, who's directing, who's
Well, you've got the work to make the space happen, but then you've got the work about working.
Yeah.
All the documents work
Exactly.
and all of the grant funding.
Yeah,
and
the fun stuff.
There's going to be lots of people needed to make that work.
Yes.
What are you looking at right now across all of those disciplines? What's needed, and how are you going to do it?
Money.
Well, okay, yes, money is needed, of course. The constant problem in both nonprofits and social enterprise.
Yes.
Yep.
But in all honesty, like if we can get some grants, I'm hopeful that even the private corporate world is going to be able to really get behind this project and vision. It's pretty unique, being downtown, being youth and inclusive and community minded, and yeah, I really do think that we'll get some good support. After that part, to be honest, I'm not too concerned. We have amazing people in our directors, in our community. Winnipeg has a really tight skateboard scene, and we have a lot of really talented people. So
yeah,
putting those pieces in the places won't be the hardest part. It's more the funding.
Social enterprise is my world. It's every day is talking about social enterprises. So looking at ways we can bring in more money into places like this that are for the community, that are built in community. I'd like to spend a little more time in that because, as we mentioned, gonna say it again, skate parks don't earn money.
No, they don't.
How else can we look at bringing revenue into a space like this? Let's dream for a little bit.
Totally, but even really quickly for the viewers, I was like, as you were saying what I just said, I was like, why don't they make money? How can they make? How are the ones that are existing making money?
Clearly, they keep staying alive.
There's just, well, do they? Like,
well,
I was running the longest running one in Canada, if not the world. So I knew what worked, and that was that model that was very unique.
A very nonprofit, part of a much larger organization.
Yes. So, but there's one in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Bigger population, obviously. It's called Third Layer, and they survive, and they've been around probably close to as long as the Edge was, but their costs are like $15 a session or whatever, and ours were like $2 if you were under 17 or 18, and $5 if you were over.
Classic Winnipeg.
And if you didn't want to pay, you basically didn't. Like, you could sweep for a bit. Like, we never. Anyways, so that's like that's what I want to shoot for, or less. Like, I don't want any, and like we never did over there, never turn anyone away because of money, but we never really advertise that too openly. We would tell people when they would come, but anyways, but here, like, I want this to be accessible, especially to the neighborhood that we're in. I don't want to be inaccessible financially. So that is one of the reasons that makes places, skate parks, not financially viable. So the other aspects, the social enterprise-y and the grants and the backing and the donations from other private incomes is how you make it happen.
Like hearing about the things that are imagined for this place. We're talking about a performance venue. We're talking about a community gathering hub. You talked about setting up multiple venues in this one space, a canteen, a skate shop, because people are already going to be here. If, let's say, a skateboard breaks, they're going to want another one right away.
Exactly.
The space, to me, has all the elements for goodwill building opportunities, because this is going to be the space where all skateboarders are going to be most of the winter. Because if you're not from around this part of Canada, it snows, and the snow stays around for about
136 days.
Yeah, so let's say half the year, give or take.
Yeah.
This space is going to be packed with people all the time. Organizations that are going to want that goodwill, that are going to want to bring in the same community. The sponsorship potential is huge.
Yeah, that's a great call that I need to learn about.
In that situation, it's probably going to be finding out who has aligned interests, like who wants to appeal to the skateboard community of those people that want to be recognized, who has money, who has a marketing budget that they could spend on events in this space. A band is coming in, they need a 400-person all floor space venue. You can easily do that here.
Oh yeah.
And you can get sponsors for people who want to connect with the skate park and the performance groups. There's not many venues quite like this.
No, and that's what one of the premier show promoters, putter honors, was saying, is like, there's a huge need for all ages venue in Winnipeg.
Right.
Which is music to my ears, because we're not making any money. That's not my real goal, but I do want to provide a service to our city and to young people gathering for positive reasons. So,
but to keep that going, we need the money.
I'll take the money.
Yeah, we'll take the money so then we can hire the right staff and keep this running, keep it safe, all those good things. So there's the sponsorship potential. I mean, if you had a ghost kitchen that wanted to set up a delivery spot here, you're going to have a seating area with the performance venue anyways. If you partner with them, they could become your out-of-house in-house restaurant.
That's not a bad idea. I think we'd have to get it commercial, like put a bunch of money in there to get it commercial.
Well, I mean, with the food delivery services that exist these days, we're in Portage Place Mall, and some people don't necessarily feel comfortable going to the food court there. You could provide a safe space to eat here.
Yeah.
That people can get food delivered into.
Oh, get people to deliver their own food here.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
And if you, let's say, partner with a restaurant that does catering,
Right.
let's say you have a group coming in that they need food for 20 people,
Yeah.
you can say, oh, we can provide catering. We have a partnership with
Right.
this person. Here's the menu.
Yeah.
Take your pick. You get
Yeah.
your commission from
Yeah.
being the hosting venue.
Yeah. Spence neighborhood actually has a youth food
Yes.
program.
Yeah, the SNA youth crew, they
Okay.
do some catering. Yeah, there could be some other natural partnerships with
Yeah.
other social enterprises like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Any other elements that you've got questions about? Because we've touched on staffing now, but even then, we only really talked about that we need money for staff,
Yeah.
not even who the staff would be or the roles that they need
Yeah,
filled.
yeah. The one way I've thought about staffing is like the skate park that I came from. I think we were 2 full-time and 2 part-time. So that's kind of what I see here, and that's in kind of in more director management roles.
Okay.
What is the appetite for volunteerism? The other spot, we had a bunch of volunteers. A lot of them were friends of ours. So it was a really tight community, and now moving here, like I feel like we have even more potential for volunteers. Don't hear me that I'm like concerned, because I think that people still will. But there's just the balance of like my wife, for example, she's like, when you get this new skate park that you're dreaming about, maybe you could like have a great park, pay people living wages. I'm like, oh, full stop, like stop there. I'm coming from like something barely working with 80% of the people power being volunteers.
Right.
So then I'm just like, how is that going to work? With what money, right?
Yeah.
I still think that the non-negotiable is like admin and like director staff, program management staff needs to be paid.
Yeah.
That's my thought. And then everything else in the old situation was volunteer,
Right.
including the night leaders who are key holders. They have a lot of responsibility. The one spot that I found myself dipping down with more wages, more staff, is for maybe potentially to pay, we call them night leaders, session leaders.
Right. So people keep the
Supervisors.
space running when
Yes.
the paid staff isn't necessarily there.
Exactly. So maybe they would be the first person in my mind to also pay if we had money. Again, no one's getting paid right now, so right now we're at a full zero. Yeah, we'll see what grants we find. We'll see what corporations we can get behind the idea, and we love the idea. Like my wife said, like paying lots of people living wage, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
100%. We'll see how that goes.
We'd love to do it if the model functions enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to something you said way back about the community and the space that we're in right now, the place we're in, because you said you didn't want to raise the prices
Mhm.
for admission
Mhm.
too high
Mm-hmm.
because of who the community is and where we are in the city. Could you describe a little more about that? Because people might not know if they're not from around here.
If you are from around here, you know Portage Place Mall in downtown Winnipeg. It's had its challenges.
It's ups and downs and downs.
Ups and downs, and some downs, and some ups, and some downs. And we're really hoping to, so it doesn't have the best reputation. Kind of a core inner city mall. A lot of the shops have left. It's kind of starting to go on the decline, which is why it went up for sale. And likely the owner of the NHL team is going to buy it, and that could work out really well. So yes, this is the mall we're in. I am really excited to bring skateboarders to revitalize a space in a specific part in the heart of the city that I love and live in. And I think skateboarders just generally do that. Artists do that. Gentrifies has a lot of negative connotations, but like you look at any neighborhood, whether it's like Brooklyn or Point Douglas or whatever it is, like artists go in. They like are the first ones to go in. So
Artists find the cheap rent
Exactly.
and do their art,
exactly.
making it a hip and trendy place.
Exactly. So that's kind of my hope here is like, can skateboarders kind of do their own little part here to revitalize downtown Winnipeg? So yeah, there's a lot of Indigenous, newcomer, affordable housing. Anyways, it's an eclectic mix.
Some of the cheapest rent is
Yeah.
in this part of the city.
Exactly. So we just need to make it accessible. And also just skateboarders on the whole aren't really into doling out a bunch of cash to skate. So that's just another thing, which I'm totally fine with. I'm the same way. So I want to make it as cheap as possible. So is that the answer to the question? Yeah, it's a space that a lot of people in our city are really excited about anything happening, and especially something vibrant, youth, skate park, music. Like it's gonna be something. Like it's it's going to be a stark contrast to what it was. Well, it was just empty. It wasn't doing anything, and
Well, yeah.
people don't want to come here. So
Well, it's been empty for years.
Yeah.
It was used very briefly as basically an art installation for the Rolling Stones. So this place, because of the low anticipated price of entry, because of the kind of people that are going to be here, it's going to be community building.
Mhm.
It's going to be bringing new people into the skate community.
Mhm.
One of the few things I know about the skate community, because I would break a hip, I would break a knee if I got on a skateboard right now. But one of the things I know is that the community is a big deal.
Mhm.
People look out after each other.
Mhm.
People are keeping each other safe. So community is a big deal. It's a tight-knit community. How do you build that? How do you encourage that in a space that is new? How do you bring people in? Because, I mean, this whole thing was birthed out of a partnership, a whole bunch of different skate organizations, shops, and interested individuals.
I think it's just the winter spot of what happens outside all summer. So we're all the same people. I really think it'll be a natural step. We're just all excited for the new spot for all of us to be in. You know, I'm not overthinking it. It's just the spot. It's just the new spot that we're all going to be in.
Right. But then for people who aren't yet in the skate community, how do you bring those people in? Because we're in a space downtown. It's going to be super visible.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people who have never thought of themselves as skateboarders. Being able to see this space and potentially come in.
Yeah, and we've actually got a lot of, I've heard in the group chat of like, oh, this lady in her 50s wants to try. And like, we might even have like a, I don't know, bi-weekly Sunday evening ladies learning to skate night. Like that sort of thing. We want to have a beginner's session. So because skateboarding is intimidating, it's very vulnerable. You slam, you fall. It's just not something that people love to do in front of people. I remember putting a piece of plywood in my garden when I was learning when I was 12, because I didn't even want anyone in my tiny town to see me learning how to ollie. So there's a vulnerability that's involved in learning how to skateboard, but we have kept that in mind. We do want to make, exactly like I said, beginner sessions for exactly that.
Right.
One of the guys, like I said earlier, he does free skateboard lessons, and he has been for like a year or two, like just consistently. So he'll be doing his stuff in here. He and his girlfriend and some other his volunteers are incredible. They're just so welcoming, and and we're gonna have like rental boards or like boards to use. The other thing we actually haven't even touched on, as far as like inviting and building this community, is the former skate park didn't allow scooters or bikes.
Right.
This one will.
Okay.
So that's a huge influx of participants, like huge. My friend in Montreal, he runs one, I think that's the biggest. It's called Lataz Skate Park in Canada. And he was like there's, as a skateboarder, there's definitely some pros to having a skateboard only skate park.
Sure. It'll be more built for the small wheels and the kind of speeds that you get to.
Yeah. And even just knowing what skateboarders do, like everything that you're riding, people ride different. Like to be completely honest, I'm a bit scared of BMXs. I don't know how we're going to split up the nights, but because I don't know exactly what they do or why or how or at what. But skateboarders is like you learn. My buddy in Montreal was saying like having scooters in that spot, like we can make fun of them all we want, but like they're a huge cash influx to the skate park and whatever. They're also just kids wanting to ride a skate park. So now they get to do it.
It's just kids riding what they have.
Exactly.
Those older people that want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is a social enterprise opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they have money.
There are social enterprises that operate on a pay if you can kind of model.
Mm-hmm.
So they make the price fairly high for the people who can afford that.
Yep.
I'm imagining like even $100 for 2 hours of guided training for an individual on how to skate.
Yeah.
They'll feel safer if they're like career people or older and just like a childhood dream to learn to skate. They could come in, get some training. They might even come back over and over until they feel confident, but then they'll be in the community, but they'll also be funding the community space.
Yes.
And then everybody else who needs it but can't afford, you can figure out a way to balance the paid and the unpaid.
That's the big question. Like even at the old spot, I was trying to figure that out by doing like a monthly pass. It costs, like you say, like there's a top end price that's listed, but then it's a sliding scale. You kind of like have a conversation, and with dignity and respect, you kind of figure out what's the appropriate fair number.
With communities like skateboard communities, if I know the subculture correctly, prestige is earned. Like you show what you can do to earn respect, and you earn respect by how you treat others. Mm-hmm. So paying for it isn't going to work. People aren't going to be more respected just because they paid the higher tier.
Oh, no.
So you got to find different ways to show and to give people value for those memberships or for those being willing to pay extra. Now, what those are is going to be the difficult conversation. Maybe there can be like a sign on the wall.
Member of the month?
Not even necessarily member of the month, but like a whiteboard wall or chalk wall. So every month it's updated. I mean, have you ever heard of Patreon? Every month when people are but it's usually used for online publications like the one you're watching. They'll have a scroll at the end of every show that's produced that month of who the members were.
Oh, yes.
And then people can say, yeah, I supported that. My name is there. I'm a part of what makes this possible. That could be an option for a space like this, when if you have it just behind that front desk, a giant board of the people who are funding this month.
I actually, the viewers can't see it, but on the side of, there's kind of a skate obstacle here. I thought about doing, you've heard of like bricks, like at a new splash pad or whatever, you sponsor a brick.
Yeah, like universities often do this kind of thing with the alumni.
I was thinking about, because I've already had an idea of cutting old broken decks into little tiles.
Oh yeah.
And building like the final surface out of these skateboard tiles. That's an incorporated trademarked idea. I actually saw it in other parks, actually. A little bit disappointingly, but also.
You're incorporating and trademarking somebody else's idea. Fantastic. I love it.
Well, I had it before them. They just did it before me.
Oh, darn. Yeah. How dare they steal your idea?
I'm sure there's a check in the mail. But anyways, I thought about having people like your name on that. You know what I mean? So like you donated to and you made the skate park happen, for example. That's for more for the build. But for like the ongoing as well, that could definitely work.
I mean, you also discussed a partnership with the arts organizations like Graffiti Gallery. What if somebody sponsored one portion of the mural each month? Like if you have a rotating cycle where every year the whole place is getting repainted, if you have sponsors for each artist, you can split that with Graffiti Gallery. It could be a great option for a partnership.
No, that's awesome.
Because then you might also get people who care about the Graffiti Gallery and their work. There might be more of an intermeshing of those communities. Finding ways to connect in and bring people into communities is one of the great things that places like this enable.
That is, you just said like my dream job description. That's who I am.
Intermeshing communities.
Yes.
Oh, I love it, because that's totally what I hope to do as well.
Yeah.
Find people like you, bring it into the group.
Yeah. No, you did. No, I often think about. I told you that last time we were walking out from the Forks.
Yeah.
I brought people together having a coffee, and I was like, "You really are doing something great, something that I could see myself doing." But I'm happy to be a.
Well, you're doing it for skaters. Yeah. I'm doing it for social enterprise. We have our niches, we have our people.
100%.
And it's the overlap that makes it really interesting.
Yeah. I think it's at Ida, the bakery. They also have buy a scone and a coffee, and then also buy a voucher for the next person coming in.
Yeah.
A couple of us independently, we had the idea of almost like a take a penny, leave a penny, which is an irrelevant concept to anyone under 25. But the idea was you could leave a penny or take a penny if you needed in a cash society. Anyways, but the voucher idea, we'll just get back to the voucher idea that we all understood. An admission pass for $5, and you just make a donation in the time. Like maybe you just happen to have cash in your pocket and you want to pay it forward. And then there's just that sharing community in addition to the sliding scale, the memberships.
But then we can look at the way people pay can also build community. Because there's a story of a New York pizza shop. So you pay for your pizza, you can choose to give an extra, and they put a sticky note on the wall, and anyone can pull a sticky note down and they get a pizza.
That's what I'm saying.
They get a slice.
That's what I'm saying.
What if you do that for entry admission?
That's what I just said. Yeah.
But more than just I've got a couple cents here. What if it's cheaper to buy somebody else's admission?
Like $5 for me, but it's $3 to pay for the next someone else.
We've got 50 rolling free passes today because people ahead of you have already paid for it.
Yeah.
And so if you just need it, you just come down, you tap the little symbol, and you're like, okay, take one off the tally, free pass, go ahead, you're in.
Yeah. Well, that would be. My heart is full just thinking about actually having a full stock of sticky notes, or so to speak, and people seeing them and not, just take. You've seen those videos on YouTube, he walks around with dollar bills, all on them, and he's take what you need, and these homeless or houseless or whatever people take $2 or whatever, say thank you, and then this other guy just takes $20 off of them that has a suit on and obviously doesn't need. Anyways, so that idea of they're all there, but take what you need.
Well, and not only that, I feel like the people that I know are most community-minded would take pride in the number that is up there shown. We've got 100 free passes. And then if they can bump that up, that could be one of those things where you can pay for prestige, because it's not for me. It's not buying for me, it's buying for the community. Maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Or if we take the membership idea, bringing in somebody new and paying for their membership for the first 3 months or something.
Yeah.
That could be a way to both grow the community, but also earn some revenue from people who might not be able to pay themselves or wouldn't be willing to pay for themselves because they're new and they're not sure about it. There are options there.
There's options. Another idea that I've had for many years already, just a skateboarder going down the street that I actually don't know, which is very strange. Usually know everyone. But I wanted to try to have Monday is sponsored by Pizza.
Right, yeah.
Tuesday is sponsored by TD or whatever, even though I have protested outside TD. But
Our RBC tends to be a more progressive bank for these kinds of sponsorships.
I've also protested outside of RBC, but
that makes sense. It's still a big bank.
different. Yeah. Anyways, so no big banks.
No big banks.
But although they do have the money, so do you dance with the devil or not? Anyways, but it'd be really great to have title sponsorships from corporations that let's say $5 at 40 people, it's $400. Is that the correct math? That you would make in a night. You just say hey, would you be willing to pay $400? You get your title sponsor for that day. And you kind of get them lined up for the year.
Yeah. Let me tell you as a marketing guy, overcharge the people who can afford to pay.
I was going to say that, actually.
Definitely, they're paying for goodwill, they're not paying for entry.
Yeah. Even when I was saying 400, I was like, at least 500, if not.
No. You're way undercharging yourself for a single day. That's social enterprise tip, raise your prices.
Because discounts feel good for people, if you can.
Not only that, but
Yeah.
the people who can afford to pay will,
Yes.
and you can always make exceptions.
Totally.
So yeah, definitely title nights, sponsor nights.
Yeah.
Mix that with the performances. If we imagine the NHL arena is just down the street here, they're paying for those board side advertisements for the thousands of people that are going to spend an hour there. What about the people that are going to spend 20 hours a week in a space like this? How much is that upper edge
Right.
on this wall worth?
Yeah.
How much would people pay for that?
Yeah. No, that's what's all got to be in the deck, right? In the presentation of these are many eyes.
And around that kind of thing, big companies don't like to take risks on marketing. And so if you can get a couple to commit a letter of support before even paying, they don't need to pay until, let's say, there's 5 people who have signed on. But then they can have the no risk only if other people of this, only other organizations of this caliber are signed on. But then all of a sudden, if you get them, you have the proof of the others that have signed on.
Yeah.
You can kind of snowball it. So
That's very
there's
smart.
definitely potential for those title sponsorships, those day sponsors. One of the things that is distinctly within the skate culture, you guys are cool. You have a good in on the cool, the stylish market a lot of the time. It's the bit of that rebellious counterculture that companies want to get in on before it's cool, before it spreads elsewhere.
I have heard that nothing influences culture more. That's number 2 next to hip hop. It's hip hop and skateboarding that influences.
You're probably going to have enough space there that you could have pop-up shops from groups that are trying to get their clothes moving.
You see these 3 doors?
Yeah.
In one of my drawings, I actually had pop-up options to
Right.
have young people or just whatever new entrepreneurial artists to rent space for short. I mean, affordable,
Yeah.
On portage in a skate park. I think that would be incredible.
Yeah, so there's definitely lots of potential there.
Yeah. I don't know what the lease is going to let us do. There's a long lease of rules of what we can't do in here.
Right.
As far as
Of
can't,
course.
no compete with our neighbors, which is an entire mall. So
Yeah, that could be a little more difficult. There's still plenty you can do, I'm sure.
yeah. I wonder if there's any examples between the two of us that we can think of, even just in Winnipeg or not, but of something. What would be the most comparable nonprofit charity service to what this is trying to be that we could look at and be like, how many staff do you have? How many youth do you serve? Where does your money come from?
Gym memberships.
Okay.
That's a solid comparison. It's
That
active.
is-
It's active. It's with the purpose of building community or to a specific goal.
Yeah.
With gyms, it's often to work out and to improve yourself.
Yeah.
Here, it's more the place to be. Look at rec centers, community centers,
Okay.
because those are going to have more of the come and hang out vibe.
Yeah. But those, I know that the money and the people.
Well,
The money is.
Again, we're looking at a hybrid of all of these.
Yeah.
Each one is going to have a bit of overlap.
Yeah.
Maybe like a curling club
Yeah.
or bowling alley.
Rock climbing places, maybe.
Yes.
That's similar.
That is probably, I think those are probably going to be the closest.
Yeah.
Because the climbing walls, they're dealing with a small group of dedicated people.
Yeah.
I think between that, the overlap between gyms and bowling alleys, that's probably the closest comparable you have, because people are going there to do an active activity.
Yeah. Scene. My question, coming from the the Matthew Skateboard Coalition and then creating this skate park. I'm on the board
Of the Skateboard Coalition.
of the coalition.
Yes.
I want to help lead this place.
Yes.
Director role or just any sort of like, I did this as my profession before.
Yeah.
As my paid job. That's what I'd love to do. So I guess the question is, can I stay on the, and I think Sean was telling me, you could stay on the board and work.
Yeah, and I think being somebody who is working in the park that is going to be one of the most visible people in the skate community, it's in the Skateboard Coalition's interest to have you on the board.
Right.
Even when you're working here paid.
Yeah.
Now, the difficulty comes depending on the structure.
Right.
If the Skateboard Coalition does not own the skate park, like if it's not a program of or a subsidiary of the nonprofit Skateboard Coalition, then you could be looking at potential conflict of interest things if the Skateboard Coalition is making choices that the Pitikwé Skatepark could benefit from, right? So if they're trying to tender out a location for a project that they're doing,
Contest or whatever.
a contest, whatever, they need to pay someone for a location.
Yeah.
If you, as the person running Pitikwé, could stand to gain individually,
Right.
then you would have to step away from that decision
Right.
as a member of the board of the
Yeah.
skate park, of
Yeah.
the skate coalition,
Yeah.
rather.
Yeah, I've heard about that happening, yeah.
Yeah, recuse yourself in decisions that affect you, because you shouldn't be using your influence in other spaces to benefit yourself personally in another.
Yes.
But yeah, the reason people have boards is to make sure they have all of the inputs that they need to make good decisions. And so having people that are embedded in the community,
Yeah.
that in and of itself is an excellent way to make sure that they're in, that they have the best interests of the community at heart,
Yeah.
that they have the info that they need to tell the rest of the board what inputs they need for their decision. So in my mind, there's no harm in staying on the board as long as you avoid those potential conflict of interest situations.
Right, that makes sense.
Anything else you want to show off about the space or like brag about?
It's going to be the biggest indoor square footage wise in Western Canada. Be sweet. It's going to be all inclusive in the sense that, you know, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, like you can ride, volunteer, work, run the place. And we're letting in skaters and roller skaters like we did in the other one, but also bikes and scooters, which is also brand new for the city for the last 2 decades or so.
Yeah.
And I want to have an indoor music venue. Really great formal partnerships with artists and art. Yeah, it's going to be a really, and we really have a focus on the downtown, on the newcomer community, on the Indigenous community, with all like the groups, like I mentioned before, the West Broadway, Spence neighborhood, like these groups that are downtown. I just really wanted this to be like a community center or like a shared resource for a lot of different people to use.
Right.
And really be a hub. So that's the dream. I'm quite excited.
Let's wrap it up.
Yep.
What did we talk about today? We talked about business structures, how you can be for-profit, you can give ownership to the people who need to have a voice in what goes on. You can be a nonprofit that is separate, that is joint partner with your founding nonprofit. You can become a co-op and give membership to the people who are invested, and you can be a program of a nonprofit. We talked about staffing and community building.
Doing a collaborative build of the park and volunteers and finding out if we're gonna have money to pay more positions than the other park did or not, or if we just do a lot of volunteer heavy, which I'm kind of assuming.
Yeah, we talked about that ratio between paid staff and volunteers, about how skate parks are hard, and so it takes a lot of community effort to actually make it more function.
Yeah, and then partnerships, like community partnerships, might bring in a little bit for if they rent the space, corporations and grants, and corporate dollars and grants, and what do we give, logo space and sponsor a night, or all those different decisions or different ideas on bringing in income.
Yeah, we talked about lots about different ideas that could potentially bring income in a space like this, from performances to selling ad space and sponsorships to how to allow people to pay willingly if they have the ability to pay, and to help that build community.
Sliding scale pricing, finding out what's equitable, sustainable,
and inclusive. Thank you very much for talking.
Yeah, thank you.
Great having you.